Hey everyone, I'm Duncan, and unfortunately, we could not book a body language expert to join us today. Turns out I don't know any. So, in lieu of that, I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to use your rationale and common sense. So, my bad. What are we talking about today? Well, short story long. Elon Musk, the exploding rocket and car fire guy, hit a Heil during his speech at the 2025 inauguration. He claimed it was a misinterpreted "my heart goes out to you" gesture to the crowd to emphasize the words he was saying, but the thing he was saying is also shady with the included context. Additionally, as all corners of the media reacted to this, he chose to relentlessly pitch jokes about it on his own website, because he is a trillionaire who apparently instead measures his self-worth by Reddit karma. It basically comes down to this. He struck the pose, intentional or not, making all the news sources freak, and he dodged blame by never defending his stance and keeping his deniability in play. If I may, I think there is something we need to acknowledge before we even remotely get into any conversation resembling he did this on purpose or not. We need to go into this story understanding that the strategy the Trump administration has been relying on since 2016 is to overwhelm us with so many small offenses that the larger ones blend in with the crowd. Because of that, in the past, whenever an American governmental figure has made some sort of dog whistle or suggestive comment, I haven't really considered it worth putting that much effort into, because yes, we should at least talk about these things, but additionally, given the context and the timing, there's almost always something worth talking about that's hidden behind this. And we should point out that this one is a little bit different. First, it's less of a dog whistle and more of a dog bullhorn. But additionally, I don't know if this was a planned stunt meant to disarm everyone or not, but if it was very poorly done because it was so blatant that it kicked up a media firestorm and everyone talked about it way longer than we were probably supposed to. Enough people put focus and time and meaning into this that whether it was meant to be a small bump in the road or not, we can blow it up and look at the specific infrastructure involved. And I think we should. Now, what do we legitimately think happened in this moment? If you ask me to put my bias aside and look at all the individual parts leading up to this, was this intentional or not?
My heart goes out to you.
Well, I truly don't believe this is a wave. I think your proof there is in the rigidity of the motion and his facial expression. He was exerting himself to do this. Additionally, he proceeds to do it again. And "my heart goes out to you" and "to you" doesn't track. And again, I don't know if this was intentional or not. It's impossible to know for sure. But this is the kind of thing that we've been seeing for years this administration would spin into some sort of attention-demanding moment. And with that in mind, I'm inclined to believe that Elon got carried away in the moment here. People pointed out that he was displaying signs of being high earlier that day. I couldn't tell you what he's on, but odds are it probably would affect a speech in the same day. And you could devil's advocate here and say he might be cracking his neck or is self-stimming out of restlessness, but the glossy eyes and the lack of restraint in the movement here help me believe that this is not the case. In my opinion, Elon was the closest he'll ever get to living in space right here. We can also take into account the fact that he is a very awkward public speaker. He can definitely pull off a speech or a lecture when he's talking to a captive audience, but if they're acting rowdy, you can see that he starts acting rowdy in response. At all the events where it's been a loud, cheering crowd, that's when you see him grunt, or scream, or jump, or whatever. And this speech was in front of a pretty electric crowd, so him getting sucked into the moment would make sense here. Additionally, this clip of a different event shows that he definitely knows a very clear way to do the "my heart goes out to you" gesture, and comparing the two, you can infer what you want. If this were a more controlled scenario, maybe it would have looked more like this, but it wasn't, and it might not have been, and it could have been planned, but I don't know. So I don't know, consider all those. So that's our groundwork going into it, right? You have the high energy crowd, you have the high Elon Musk. He gets up there, believably gets caught up in the moment, and throws out an aggressive Heil, which pollutes any deniability he might have in the moment. And even if this was entirely unintentional, the effort of defending him that his base put in is making this worthy of concern. So, if you were to ask me, what do I think? I would say that whether or not Elon did a World War II German salute or not doesn't matter. The action is significant and the consequences are important, but whether or not he did it doesn't matter, because either way, the effect is there. Whatever happened, happened. It was enough to alert the more mainstream media stations into reacting. The already loud and proud saluters took the credit for Elon, and Elon himself just wasted time with a bunch of middle-aged internet jokes about it. Whether it was an organic prompt or not, everyone got something out of this. And despite this typically being like an ineffective approach, I'm glad this got the coverage it did. I'm glad a lot of the major news sites broke into this as much as they did, because if we are on a turn of fascism, we need to start pointing this stuff out in the open. This is something that even the general public will closely associate to fascism, so yeah, it's worth talking about for a couple of days. But I would say the biggest reason why this does not matter is because it's, in a word, unsurprising. Elon constantly uses the website he bought to boost accounts that are very proudly World War II World War II German salute appreciators. I'm sorry that YouTube has censorship. And in all his jokes, Elon made sure to never specifically label what it was in order to, distance himself. But even if he tweeted, "Yes, I am a Hitler fan," it doesn't change the fact that he's in a position of power. Like us going, "Gotcha," doesn't do anything. As much as it may seem like this would change everything, his people would not leave him because he's too useful to them. But otherwise, that's about everything that went into this moment that we can analyze. So you might be asking, why bring it up? Why make a video about it if it's such old news already? I'm not bringing this up to inspire panic or to claim like I have the real answers. I'm bringing this up because I think it illustrates a point of action for us. Removing the context, looking past whatever dread this might bring, doing this is extremely embarrassing. There is no strength being projected in this hand gesture, especially if you're not going to be loud and take credit for it. Also, even if this was meant to scare us, it clearly took almost all of his energy to get it out there. Like, you can see that it took a lot out of him, and that's not a strong look. And so if people in your life, or if people you know, are emboldened by this moment, do the right thing and make fun of them for it. The language that the alt-right speaks is shame. They're desperate to reinforce the boxes that they were born into, because without them, they don't have a legitimate argument to why they're deserving of praise. They have to be born better in order to be better. And that's such a lazy argument to resort to. And usually by pointing out this framing, they get nervous. Case in point, look at Elon. He loved the attention he got from this, right? He was eating it up. Even he eventually posted about how long it was going on. Even he started getting a little self-conscious about the coverage here, because he did the salute and people didn't move on. And the longer you let an action like this hang, the more they're going to get squeamish about it. And in almost every other situation, I would say that the making fun of them tactic is pretty weak to bring to an argument. Like, it's kind of a cheap thing to rely on. In most cases, I would argue that it's almost a sign that you are losing the argument. But it's not hyperbolic to say that lives are on the line here, and the people who are aligning themselves with this party are aligning themselves with that of ethnocide. And if they want to be on that side of things, I think it's warranted for us to ask them, if they look like this, why they think their genetics are so superior. The people on this side of things, Elon included, have shown that they're not going to respond if you disprove them. It's not about having the right argument. You need to actually disrupt them. That's why so many liberal tears coffee mugs sell, because they think it's this instant win if you have any kind of reaction. And instead of giving them the credit they think they have in the moment, I think you kind of just have to point out how stupid they're being. And at this point, you might ask, Duncan, does your video have a call to action to make fun of people? And yeah, it's kind of the least you can do in a world that is threatening to get worse. And I am not implying that I want anyone who considers themselves on the left to be mean. Being mean isn't really the answer here, and I don't want that to get confused. What I want is for us to stop acting like this stuff is worthless to react to. Because so many people engage with this stuff online, in the real world, a blunt, honest-to-God reaction is probably going to be enough to shake someone into a reality check. Especially if you aren't doing any kind of other active resistance, which if you are, you should not be talking about online. So this would be an alternative option for you to do instead. It is easy to let the sheer number of times this happens overwhelm you. And that's why it's important to remember that these people are doing this for attention. I don't say that to dismiss them, but they're doing this to provoke a reaction because they think they want the attention. They've been told that this is the sort of activity your posts are supposed to generate. Promoting this kind of dark shit online is a brand. It's a permanent brand that will still be there, even if the attention fades away. I'm not trying to say that you should leave 4 comments under a post like this trying to make fun of the guy, because a lot of people have learned how to tune that out. They can just label it as internet criticism and go on about their f***ed up day. What you should do is combat this when you see it in real life, or you see someone you know post this kind of stuff, because this is the ideology that survives by spreading. And if you have a chance in the moment to shut that shit down, I think you should take it. I know it's situational, and I'm not expecting you to shame these people into reformation, but if someone says something and it does kind of sound like the dumbest thing you've ever heard, just say it. I've been ranting, so to wrap this up, instead of doing anything extreme, which again, you should not be talking about doing so online, this is just one of the everyday ways that you can stand up for people of color, people of any race, American immigrants, gay people, trans people, basically anyone who doesn't fall under what the salute stands for. I care so much that you don't just read this as internet discourse or like something that goes away whenever your phone is turned off. Like, this is real life. It's happening to people you know, and eventually, odds are, it's going to happen in some capacity to you. And especially the people who look like me, filling in all the boxes that we do. It's important we don't resign ourselves to that and fall back because it's the easy thing. This is something we need to actively resist and fight in order to stand up for the people who are being targeted here. I know this started as a haha, look at the Reddit edgelord kind of a video, and I'm sorry that I'm getting a little preachy. You all make me proud to be in a position where I can be vocal online, no matter what it leads to. I don't take a single one of you for granted, and I'm going to fight for all of you that I can. You deserve a world that reflects that. I may just be a purple boy talking to you through a screen, but I believe there is a better world possible that we can reach by working together. And it's comforting to remember that people like this don't usually last very long. And at the very, very, very least, you can say this about the puritanical American alt-right, if they're correct about heaven, then the rest of us don't have to worry about them when we get there. Because, anyone defending this is not a angel to be, you know? And so if they're right about heaven, at the very least, we'll have that. Bye. Oh my god, that was a close one. I almost got political there for a sec. I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I hope it inspired you to think about this a way you haven't before. If you want me and other people to read about what you think about this, do the whole comment thing, because I'll be reading them. I'm interested in hearing what people's thoughts are on this. Any way you engage with the video will help, be it liking, comment, the notification bell, smash the, if you want to. But you can support me directly by giving me even just $1 on Patreon. It gets your name up here, and you get to read passages I scribble down in my fugue state while making these. With that, I got nothing else, so I'm going to wrap this up, start making the next one. So, thank you. I hope something good happens to you this week. Take care of yourself and others. Love you lots. Bye.